have that. Chat, I have this banner up here. Let's see if I can get rid of that StreamYard overlay. I'm using the Let's Keep It a Buck services. Wow, that's crazy. Whoa, that's a crazy one. How we doing today? How we doing today, chat? How we doing today, chat? Let me get a few things out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and share this link out, send it to people in the Discord and whatnot. Let me see. I don't think I said go live on YouTube, and that's why it's not doing it. Look, ladies and gentlemen, are we live on YouTube? I don't think I see us being live on YouTube. I don't think I see us being live on YouTube. Somebody comment down below and see if we're live on YouTube. Yes, we are live on YouTube. Okay. No, it's not made for kids. I'm gonna go ahead and share this room. Listen, man. I got two rooms open. That's why that's what's going on here. That's my issue right now. I'm sorry about that one. If you're not seeing it, I think that I can delete it. Let me delete it forever. I understand. Delete forever. And hopefully that does not take the live stream off live. Listen, man. Got a lot of commentary on the Gina Bontemps, Floria Bontemps controversial abortion is slavery. Abortion is worse than slavery. In the comments. So I want to go ahead and debate those comments live on stream. I wasn't going to make a rebuttal video. That's a little too much. I think that I want to go ahead and rebut some of the comments live on stream. That's the best way to go about this process. That's the best way to go about this process. Because the stuff that she was spewing was crazy. The stuff that she was spewing was absolutely insane. If you don't remember the conversation that she had about abortion, the take that she had about abortion, I'll play it in just a second. But while you're here, while we're getting the information out to the people, go ahead and spread that around. Noti gang. Word of mouth, people, tell people that I'm live type shit and things of that nature. I ain't never been live solo. I don't gotta worry about. I don't have to worry about Sage and the guys. You know what I'm saying? It's just me and the boys tonight. Why your camera don't look like this on the pod? It's a different look. I'm trying to show a different aesthetic. Is that okay with you? Can I do that? Is everybody okay with me having a different aesthetic from the pod as opposed to my personal channel? All right, let's get into this a little bit. Let's stop beating around the bush. Gina Floria Bontemps. She used to work for Candace Owens. Her story is a little bit unique, a little bit different. She went to Harvard, was a Harvard graduate, and that is where she claimed she got radicalized. I watched a little video on her. That is where she claimed that she had been radicalized to believe these different things about to believe these different things about abortion and white supremacy and feminism. She became a feminist at that point in time while going to Harvard. And her becoming a feminist changed her perspective on life so much that she even noted that she hated America. And in her saying that she hated America, upon graduation, she fled America to go to Australia, moved around from America to China, and she started to realize different things about herself. Came back to America, married a man, and was working at a news station. The news station had her writing a bunch of, we'll call them radical pieces. And the radical pieces are the things that made her hate America more. But her husband is the one who apparently broke her out of this situation. And then she ran into Candace Owens. And Candace Owens turned her all the way up into a right-wing conservative. And that made her question everything. Why is America making me hate its country, hate the people in it, all these things, X, Y, and Z, and LMNOP? Now, I believe personally she got the wrong message from that, because those events led her to her making this controversial take right here.
Abortion's worse than slavery. Well, I don't care if this hurts your feelings. I don't care. Abortion is the #1 worst human rights issue that has ever happened on American soil.
Now don't mind her. Don't mind her in the background. That last person right there. But abortion being worse than slavery. Abortion being worse than slavery. Now, off the top, that's a very crazy statement. That's a very, very, very crazy statement. And people feel like, hey, I want to dispute that X, Y, and Z, da 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 da. I feel a certain type of way because that's just not true. And I made a video about it. I personally felt like she was going crazy. I felt like she didn't know what she was talking about. So I decided, let's make a video about it. And of course, my stance was, this is the most outlandish thing I have ever seen in my life. She's stupid. And her co-host that agreed with her is just as stupid as she is. And mind you, it's funny to me how on that podcast in particular, it's an Asian woman and a white, well, I think she's Asian. It's an Asian woman and a white guy debating about slavery and abortion and things of that nature. There's no black commentary on there at all. And people are asking like, yo, okay, well, what is the white guy saying that makes you believe that, he is as well wrong, or X, Y, and Z? Because I didn't see the white guy's commentary. I just saw one of the first, her first initial commentary. So what did the white guy say? And I'm not going to lie, he didn't make it no better.
Rights atrocity in the last 100 years or so, abortion has taken more lives. And a lot of people said,
you'll never say that to a black person.
So introducing our guest for today, Shekinah, do you believe abortion is worse than slavery?
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Please welcome Shekinah to the show, everybody.
Okay, we were not expecting that. We didn't ask. We did not prep Shekinah with this question.
We have a member in the audience who I believe is also of the non-lack of melanin club. So let's just hear his answer. Sir, do you believe that abortion is worse than slavery?
Facts.
Okay, so we have two blacks that agree with us.
Is that crazy? Am I crazy? I don't even understand what they were trying to prove with this one. But to me, that's some of the craziest, let me go get some pick-me's real quick. And let me, let them be on my podcast and let them tell on themselves, and let them voice their opinions in X, Y, and Z. I don't know what they thought they were proving there. The white guy goes on to compare like slavery to it, to not slavery, but student loan debt to slavery, and a bunch of other things. And I don't know. I didn't know people felt this way. I wanted to debate the comments. I got two blacks. Which is a crazy comment within itself. Let's get into these comments, man. Let's get into these comments. Let me share my screen. I'm also gonna send the link in StreamYard. So if people want to come up, they can come up and voice their opinions. Don't want this to be an echo chamber. Posting it down there at the bottom down there. Don't want this to be an echo chamber, but before we do that, I want to share my screen because I feel like this is very important. We're gonna go through some research. This is Gina right here. Personal trainer extraordinaire, Harvard University graduate from San Francisco, California. You see her writing credentials. You see she has a bunch of credentials. Educated woman. She's a master's and a bachelor's from Emory in social science, religion, and piano performance. It's music. Master's in theology. It's religion. I'm pointing these things out for a reason because I personally believe that these conversations come from people with privileged backgrounds. She's a mom, and that is to be noted. She is definitely a mom. She's proud that she's a mom. This is her podcast. Hold on, let it load up. This is the podcast for anybody that wants to, get into that podcast lifestyle with her. This is the podcast. If you want to tap in, you can tap in. And this is her website where she is a certified personal trainer. Just a little bit about Gina before we read these comments. If you want to come up. I put the link down below. I'm gonna read some of these comments. Make this a little quick video here. I don't even necessarily want to be streaming long. So this is the video that I made August 1st. Asian woman says abortion is worse than slavery. I gave my take. I thought, hey, I thought I was doing something. Maybe I wasn't. This person says, and I'm going to go through all 57 of them because we got time. I want to see who's on my side of the fence, who's not. We'll debate some of these points, and we'll really get into the meat and potatoes. You realize that black people own slaves, not just in America, but in Africa. It was black Africans who captured, enslaved, and sold fellow black Africans to the West. You're asking her if she's dumb, but you're coming across as the ignorant one, guy. Listen, let me move my camera up just a bit. Move that up just a little bit. Still see Darth Vader. You feel what I'm saying? Nobody said that Africans didn't capture slaves. I think that people think the idea is that they sold their cousins. They sold people that they were related to in the same tribes as and everything like that. But these people were most likely prisoners. And if you believe that there wasn't some force behind that situation from a white hand in selling slaves to these people, you bet your sweet ass there was. And on top of that, these people were selling these people who were criminals, who were enemies, who were people that they didn't like without knowing what they were getting themselves into. I can't say if that would have skewed their opinion. If they would have known that they were selling them into slavery, do I think that, they would have stopped or whatever the case may be? No. Do these people also want the goods and resources that these people had? Of course. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't even understand why this is a point, though. I really don't even get this point. No, this didn't even come up in the video. I can guarantee you go back and you watch this video. This didn't even come up in the video. This was stupid. Let's keep going. Illuminati says, a lot of silly opinions and statements in this video. Slaves in the U.S. are far, far, far outnumbered by aborted babies. Not just the ones killed, but the actual total number of slaves in the U.S., which is factually true. I don't understand where they get their numbers from and their research and everything like that. But what's funny is also in that video, they keep bouncing back between slavery in the U.S. and slavery across the world. you definitely don't want to count slavery across the world because that definitely outweighs the numbers of U.S. abortions. It just does, period. That's a dumb argument. 2, how do you know your ancestors didn't own slaves? The slave trade was very active in Africa and still is to some extent. It's quite possible your ancestors took slaves for themselves. Also, there were black slave owners in the U.S. This is as well true. I think this is like a part of the privilege statement that I'm talking about. How do you know? You're absolutely right. I cannot conclusively say that that is not the case. You know why? It's hard for me as a black man to trace my ancestry back. It's very hard. It's impossible. All those sites, ancestry.com, what is it? DNA, me, 123, X, Y, and Z. Those things put you in general regions. They're not tracing your lineage back to specific people like other counterparts. Asians, whites, Jews, they're not tracing back that far. I've been to the Georgia archives in Morrow, Georgia, and tried to trace my lineage back through a family tree. It stops not at my great-grandparents. It covers their parents, but it doesn't cover my great-grandparents' parents. At that point, it just says slave. Unknown slave. An unknown slave had a child. That's it. That's what it says. I looked it up. They run their services through ancestry.com. Unknown slave and unknown slave had a child. And that's where my lineage starts. And even if you say, well, Omar, you could send your DNA into these places. You could swab your mouth, send it in. They'll recover some data. All it's going to tell me is that, hey, you're from X region in Africa, generally speaking. It's not going to tell me, oh, yeah, Kenneth Anderson was the one, or T'Challa, whoever, was the one who birthed you. It's not going to tell me that. It's going to tell me Kenneth, and it's going to tell me, hey, you're from this Middle Eastern region of Africa. And it's possible that you belong to a tribe we've also lumped into this Middle Eastern region of Africa. That's all it's going to tell me. I don't have the privilege that white people have to trace back my lineage to the 1700s, the 1600s, even to the days that they were in Europe. I don't have that privilege. Sorry. Number 3, suicide rates among slaves were actually pretty low. Okay. Not trying to imply it was a good life by any means, but suicide actually has a surprisingly little correlation to having a hard time in life. Suicide actually has surprisingly little correlation to having a hard time in life. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. I don't know where he's getting these suicide rates in slaves. Also, yeah, I mean, it is hard for people to take their lives. So I guess if we're talking about millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of slaves, if only hundreds of thousands of them killed themselves, you're absolutely right. Suicide rates were low. People had hope. They didn't know what they were coming to, so there was still hope on that side. Then they created families within the systems that they were in. And they decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to continue because there might be a better day, introduced to religion and things of that nature. So, yeah, I understand that. Suicide actually has surprisingly little correlation to having a hard time in life. Okay. In the end, the entire point of the video is, would you see the murder of 63 million people as a worse atrocity than enslaving 2 million people? I think most people would answer yes to that question. I think 100 to 200 years from now, people will look back at this time and think people of this age were every bit as savage and cruel for abortion as people now think about slavery. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. People used to eat slaves. People used to make and you know what's funny? These are the things that they don't talk about that make me believe that slavery has been desensitized. Because to say that in 100 to 200 years, people will look at us just as bad as we look at those who participated in the slave trade is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. No way that I think people 100, 200 years will think that mothers in financial hardships who made a decision about something that a lot of people wouldn't consider as a life terminated it from their bodies, as opposed to people holding slaves, whipping them, R-wording them, murdering them, beating them, having babies with them, eating them, making clothes out of them. There's no way that you would think that that's like in any way, shape, form, or fashion something similar. How you could say that, I have no clue. Let me pull up the comments on YouTube. Let me pull up the comments on YouTube. Let me see what's going on here. Because if I'm missing something, please. So somebody get with me now. If I'm missing something, somebody get with me. June 24th, 2022, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, will be celebrated as a national holiday. These people are sick. This person, Candid Thinker, I think was on my side when she said, linked apart, what about the death penalty? Cab says, point one, to disagree with this, you have to believe, to disagree that abortion is worse than slavery, you have to believe enslaving people is at least no more than killing someone, or two, babies that are aborted are not human. Enslaving people is at least no worse than killing someone, and babies that are aborted are not human. Point two, Black Americans owned and sold the Black slaves that came to America. Already addressed that. Don't even understand what that has to do with anything. I don't know if they think that when they say things like that, Black people are supposed to be like, oh my God, you're absolutely right. And the same thing with point three. A few free Blacks in America did own slaves. Oh my God. Black people, they sold people into slavery? This can't be. This just can't be. Not my brothers. Y'all are dumb, bro. That's dumb. Enslaving people is at least no worse than killing someone. I think that people misunderstand this stuff. When you commit a crime in the United States, if you murder someone, just straight up go up to somebody, bow. This is me murdering someone. You go up to someone, bow, murder someone. Hey, even if you had intent, whatever, your penalty is less than you torturing someone, than you kidnapping, you torturing, you R-wording, you beating, you pulling out their teeth, making them fight, making them breed, all these other things, and then eventually killing them at the end of it, potentially. Yeah, all these things are way worse. You'll get a way harsher penalty than if you decide to just come up to somebody and bow, murder. So yes, I think slavery is worse than abortion. I think torture is worse than murder. Is that crazy to say? Somebody tell me. Shane says, my guy, you are ignorant. I wanted to read these comments because a lot of them aren't in my favor. Slavery existed in Africa long before Europeans showed up. Yeah, slavery is a worldwide phenomenon. Nobody's debating that. I'm telling you, that's not having the effect that y'all think it had. Oh my God. Slavery. No. Additionally, many African slaves were enslaved by Africans before being purchased by European slave traders. Finally, many Black people have some degree of European DNA as well, further increasing the likelihood that slave owners existed somewhere in their lineage. You think that was voluntary or something like that? You think that them owning slaves was somehow voluntary? If that is the case, slave owners are somewhere in their lineage. No, bro. 9 times out of 10, somebody was getting R-worded to make that happen. That's not just, oh man, a slave and a slave master fell in love. A lot of folks is Thomas Jefferson kids for real. A lot of folks is Thomas Jefferson kids. And if you look up how many kids Thomas Jefferson had from his slaves, you'd be disgusted. Come on, bro. Y'all stupid. This is stupid. King Peasy says slavery is worse than abortion. Easily. With abortion, you just never existed. Some people may view it as dying. With slavery, you get beat, forced to work, forced to watch your family, R-worded, and beat, and still may end up getting killed by the slave owner. And people saying black people in Africa own slaves are dumb. Africans didn't own Africans as slaves because of their race. Africans had black slaves literally because they were black. Or I'm sorry, Americans had black slaves literally because they were black. It's not like other races were rounded up to become slaves for a specific reason. Black people in America were forced into slavery because they were viewed as below human, and the only value they were perceived to have in the world was as unpaid slaves that had to do whatever white people said. Otherwise, they'd get whipped and or tortured. So to compare that to getting rid of an embryo that's arguably not even alive is crazy. She thinks babies should be brought into the world when their own parents don't even want them. And that's the privileged conversation. And most likely doesn't give a fuck about what happens to them after they're born. They can live a life of poverty and be unwanted by the very people that brought them into the world in the first place. But as long as they're born, she's cool. I think that this is the part where I want to talk about. Somebody says, I wish I could see the dislike count. I wish I could too. I think there might be a way in the studio. I think that people just don't even understand that when people have these conversations, it's coming from a very, 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 how should I say, privileged standpoint. It's coming from a privileged standpoint. There are people in rural Georgia, where I'm from. I don't know. They got R-worded. They got, they had a baby because the condom broke. They can't reach contraceptive. Sex is still enjoyable. They can't afford contraceptive as well. That's also a possibility. You're telling a mother who is already overextended. She's got multiple babies. She's got government assistance out the wazoo. She is working a job and she's maxing out at $30,000 a year, that you have to have this baby. Figure it out. You can break yourself out these shackles in this small podunk town. You think that these people want to live in poverty? Is that what you think? And we're talking about white women too. Please don't get it mistaken. We are not talking about black women. I am not fighting for a specific race in this, even though black women are the ones that are disproportionately affected by this chain of events. Trust me, I am talking about a multitude of people. You want these people to have babies and be born into this type of life. That's disgusting work. Brandon Nayeli says, at least in slavery, human life still has value. Let me zoom in. Because I know y'all just looking at words. Let me zoom in. Brandon says, at least in slavery, human life still has value. To who, Brandon? To who? To who, man? To who? That's the dumbest shit. Come on, bro. Griff Onyx Knight says, after listening to this video, I think we can say that slavery is as bad as abortion, but not worse. What do you think? This is crazy. What do you think is this sentence is more common ground? Because I believe slavery and abortion is something bad. I personally don't think abortion is bad. I don't know. I don't know what he's saying. Chat saying 3/4 of value is still value. It's crazy. May says people are not desensitized about slavery. It's always brought up to bring down black people. Is it? However, it's too sensitive. That's crazy. However, it's too sensitive but separate humanitarian issues. Slavery was atrocious because most people spent their whole lives in slavery and were tortured at times, sometimes every day. But she's right about people being desensitized to abortion. I mean, I don't think there's anything to attack. I just disagree right there. I think that people also fail to realize the aftermath of slavery and what happened after slavery. And that's probably a fundamental flaw right there. That's probably a fundamental flaw. Without knowing the aftermath of slavery, you probably won't get why slavery is as bad as we think it is. Yeah, Cardiac, I do need mods. Hey, but I don't have them. Jesse says, so I have to comment. I don't think you understand what she is talking about when she says at some point your ancestors owned slaves. I went to the Library of Congress and was able to trace my ancestry back to 50 BC. The point of this is, at some point, did someone in that line own slaves? Probably. My family has been on the poor side for the better part of 400 years. But when I go back to 1100 AD, we were linked to royalty. So is there a good chance they had slaves in 1100 AD? Probably. I don't think you are thinking far back enough when it comes to ancestry, where you have to take the time to go back, or not all of our ancestries go back thousands of years, and the odds of you having a slave and a slaveholder at some point in your family is pretty close to 100%. Listen, even if I agree with what you're saying, that is a privileged conversation. You said you went to the Library of Congress and was able to trace your lineage back. Dog, I don't know. I don't understand what you don't understand. People literally can't do that. I can't do that. My lineage stops at unknown slave. And you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy about that comment that you made? It's almost even frustrating, because that's a beautiful sight. That's a beautiful sight to be able to trace your lineage back to 50 BC, before Christ. That means you had family, if you believe in Christianity, during the time of Jesus, during the time of the Bible, during the time of major religion and its creation, during the times of any major event in human history. You are able to say, hey, my ancestors were there at some point. I can't even say my ancestors go past 1850. I'm talking about America's existence. I can't even say my ancestors go back that far. And yeah, I can assume, but I can't even assume. I don't. My stuff start. Maybe it's at the Library of Congress. Maybe I have to, get the money together to go to the Library of Congress and trace it there. But through Ancestry.com, everything that I've researched and looked at, and I'm putting together a presentation. I have a family reunion coming up. Everything that I've looked at says that my ancestry stops at the unknown slaves in 1850. That's tough, bro. That's tough, bro. I just don't. And I could guess that there's 100%, but I just don't know. RZA says, who is this woman? That's Candace Owens' manager, apparently. I don't know. I'm getting some comments. Hey, man, I put the link down there. You can come up. We can have a conversation. Yeah, we can have a conversation about this topic if you want to. Kenry says she is discussing the international indentured servitude around the world. Like the Hebrews, like the Irish, if you had debt, you went into slavery to work it off. Transatlantic slave trade was different, where they got permission from the Pope to take non-Christians and work them to death. When they classified black people as non-human and lynched them, beat them, fed them to dogs and pigs, it is a different type of slavery. Global slavery is not the same thing as the transatlantic slave trade, which is a fact. The history of Brazil, Mexico, Haiti, Jamaica, in so many places where the black people were worked to death and killed, that is not the same. They are being intentionally stupid. Women who will die from not getting an abortion and undergo underage rape victims need them. Everyone else can do what they want if their state says they can. And listen, there's no mind to upset. I see somebody down in the chat, honor, integrity, truth, conscience. The link is right there. I'm about done with these comments. I'm gonna get to you in a second, dog. We can chop it up. This isn't a debate. This isn't anything. I just want a better understanding. Karma says, my dude, black people exist outside of America. You sound so ignorant. Who do you think sold your ancestors to slavery? I don't know. I can't trace that far back. Other black slave owners. Don't call someone stupid. That's the thing. How can you make the assumption? How can you make the assumption that black people sold my ancestors into slavery? That's the thing that kills me. You don't know that. You don't know that they didn't come up on the land and take me and my people. I don't know that. How do you know that? That's crazy. And again, even if they did, how are we looking at the ramifications of slavery and just wiping them away? You did not just say slavery is desensitized. Let's Go says, wow, you are living in a different country. Guess the America I live in isn't absolutely obsessed with talking about and using slavery as a cute cudgel in 2022. She is 100% right. Sounds like you're not coming at this with an open mind. Ajbin says, you clearly have a diluted understanding of desensitization. Being desensitized to a subject doesn't imply that the topic is not a matter of debate or a focal point in the fabrics of society. Omar is simply saying that slavery has been ingrained into American culture, and we have collectively reached a point in which we're not cognizant of the true atrocities of slavery, which I agree. Again, I think that people truly think that slavery happened, Emancipation Proclamation happened, and then civil rights movement. There's no gap in between. I can guarantee you, I can challenge a lot of people. They don't know what happened with that gap in between the Emancipation Proclamation and the civil rights movement. A lot of people don't know. But if you found out, you would be disgusted beyond belief. Black bodies just laying in the streets. Indentured servitude for people who couldn't pick up jobs. The only jobs available were sharecropping. No healthcare, no housing, no opportunity. Let's Go responds, I think the exact opposite has happened. You can't hyper focus on something and have it become desensitized. Ajbin replies, even if that's the case, we still cannot put it into perspective as to how traumatic these events of slavery were. Thus, we're desensitized. I think the idea of non-black people saying the N-word is the most telling of our desensitization to slavery. And I love you, Ajbin, because you might see this video. I saw your comments about I shouldn't be doing these things, but these are the reasons why we're doing these types of videos. Both are horrendous acts. Hey, if you say so. Wow, that's a long one, bro. Yeah, this is a long one. Is it true, though, that not only black people were slaves? Listen, I'm not reading this one. I'm not reading that one. That's a long one. AB says, I think that many people nowadays believe that it is better to be dead than suffer. Yes. Yes. I think that many people nowadays believe that it is better to be dead than suffer. Yes. I believe it is better to be dead than suffer. Is that crazy? Why would I want to suffer for 50, 60, 70 years of my life in those types of conditions? I'm not talking about just simple American poverty. I'm talking about those types of conditions. And I said American poverty because American poverty is still very much different than poverty in like India and stuff like that. Yeah, I would rather suffer. What kind of dumb shit is that? Androvian says, desensitized to slavery? Huh? What? Bruh. We talk about it constantly, all the time, nonstop. It provides the backdrop for and permeates roughly every conversation about Black history, race, or both, inside of academia, the media, and Hollywood. What planet are you logging in from? 2, no idea what you're talking about vis-a-vis no slavery talk. Cite your work. This is the person I wanted to target. Let me be clear. Slavery might provide the backdrop for a lot of things, but again, there's so many people that discover the atrocities of slavery. There are people that believe that slavery only exists in the South, or existed in the South. I challenge everybody to ask somebody younger. Ask somebody younger, what is slavery? If you got a younger cousin, younger brother, younger sister, ask them what is slavery and ask them what happened post-slavery in America, immediately post-slavery in America, and see how misguided they are when it comes to that conversation. And honestly, ask yourself, do you know? Because I bet you don't. A lot of y'all don't. No idea what you're talking about vis-a-vis no slavery talk laws. Cite your work. I clearly talked about Texas. So I want to bring that up. Texas lawmakers are going a little insane. Let's go ahead and zoom in just a bit. Let me see if I can. Texas educators propose referring to slavery as involuntary relocation to describe slavery. Involuntary relocation to describe slavery. Let's say. Some Texas schools may describe slavery as involuntary relocation. Now, it says a group of 9 educators submitted the idea to the State Board of Education as a part of Texas's efforts to develop a new social studies curriculum. The once-a-decade process updates what children learn in the state's nearly 8,900 public schools. The board is considering curriculum changes 1 year after Texas passed a law to eliminate topics from school that make students feel discomfort. Critical race theory is a huge talking point right now in America. I don't even understand how that can be debated. Texas textbook slavery. This is the article where a Texas textbook, a textbook in Texas, they use the word workers in order to describe slaves. They use the word workers. Let's see if I can make this image a big image because I think it's on this page right here. Where is it on this page? The caption, she says the caption. That's probably too hard to read. Chat, is that too hard to read? Yeah, it won't zoom in anymore either. I probably have to download it. But in the commentary about people coming to America as slaves, they are referred to as workers. So for this person to say, cite your work in this argument, it's the most asinine shit I've ever seen in my life. There were a total of 2 to 3 million slaves in the U.S. from 1776 to 1865 versus 62 million babies dead via abortion since Roe v. Wade. I don't know where you got that number 2 to 3 million. I can't say. I'd say her point and her comparison are perfectly valid. Everyone agrees on the immorality of slavery, yet half of the country looks the other way while a multi-billion-dollar industry rips 800K to 1 million babies apart every year and dehumanizes an entire class of people to justify it. I don't know if they think that these people like are forcing abortions on the people. These people want to get aborted. I don't know if these people don't understand like abortion isn't some simple matter. It's a very emotional process. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. slow it down if you need to, and really objectively think about what she is saying. Let's rip into this real quick. Because I need people to see what they mean about Planned Parenthood and the money it makes. Abortion is Planned Parenthood's essential billion-dollar business. That's what they're taking away from these things. That's what they're reading these headlines right here. Don't have any fact checking on the Heritage Foundation, but they're reading these headlines, they're getting sensationalized, and they're not doing the full-on deep dive. But mind you, Planned Parenthood has a breakdown of what happens. But this one right here, family planning and abortion clinics in the U.S., industry trends from 2017 to 2018. $3.7 billion over 5 years to 2022. It's increased. Now, what you would have to do in that situation, and I want to do it on stream. I was about to do it on my calculator. 3.7 billion divided by 5. 740 million a year. Follow me. We want to look up abortion. Oh, yeah, abortion related services. Planned Parenthood. And this covers all abortion. This covers all abortion. I want to make sure that I get the right number, because there's a percentage that these services make up, and I think people don't know what that is. I'll donate to you later, Planned Parenthood. These are the facts and figures, the annual report for Planned Parenthood every single year. These are the things that Planned Parenthood provides. Transgender, they provide services for transgender patients, contraceptives and unintended pregnancies, breast exams, and things of that nature. I want to say this is the right report, but we want to go down to see what percentage of these are abortion-related services. 1.1 million, blah, 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 blah. Where is it? Where is it? There's a way to search this. If I'm not mistaken, we'll just do Command F. Bear with me, people. Abortion. And maybe this is skewed data, because I think that this is from the year of the pandemic, but that's just talking about abortion. He's talking about abortion bans and things of that nature. Here we go. Here we go. Found it. Convict music. This right here lets you know what services that they offer at Planned Parenthood and what percentage they make up. You see, STI testing and treatment make up 52%. 52%. Contraception is at that 25%. What we're looking for is abortion-related services. Abortion-related services make up for 3% of Planned Parenthood's annual services. 3%. We're taking away funding, calling these places abortion clinics, saying that abortion is this $1 million, billion-dollar industry for a company that owns 3%. It's only 3%. Now, Planned Parenthood would be a large entity if 3% of their services calculated for millions of dollars, billions of dollars annually. What was that? 740 million? They would be making a shit ton of money. But we know that's just not true. This is propaganda right here. The numbers are right there. 3%. Somebody explain that. 3%. I know a lot of people didn't know that. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. 3%. Let's get through some of these. I only want to do a couple more. As a Black person, I recently traced my father's side of my family back to the year 1515. And guess what? We were not from Africa, and we owned land and slaves. So no, slavery isn't just a Black person thing. Who do you think gave African slaves to colonizers? Because I know for a fact that no one would just stand back and watch as their entire village be lugged off into ships. People with guns and diseases. I mean, I don't know why you thought that they were just standing back, not trying to fight. Yeah, guns and diseases. What the fuck? During slavery, people at least got a chance to escape or at least make the most of their lives. But with abortion, a person's life ends as if they were never a person in the first place. Slaves were at least considered 3/5 a person. I don't got to read no more. During slavery, this is from a Black person. During slavery, people at least got a chance to escape or at least make the most of their lives. But with abortion, a person's life ends as if they were never a person in the first place. Slaves were at least considered 3/5 a person. Slaves were at least considered 3/5 a person. What more do we have to say? What more do we have to say? I'm gonna post that link down there one more time. I got Sean backstage. It's not too many of these. It's not gonna be too long, but slaves at least had a chance to make the most of their lives. Or they could have escaped. And at least had a chance to live. And they were at least 3/5 of a person. You muted, Sean. You muted, Sean.
Shit. That shit didn't make no sense. Hold on, bro. They said slaves had the opportunity to make the most out of their lives.
Slaves had the chance to make the most out of their lives.
How? How did they have that up? First of all, there's a lot of points that needed to be attacked too. At the start of the video of that podcast, didn't that lady say that abortion was the number one civil rights issue in America?
Human rights issue in America.
Human rights, right. So my confusion is, why is everyone talking about all these other acts of slavery in different countries, or how Africans sold off Black people to the white people? Why are we talking about all these other things instead of talking about American slavery to try to justify what the point that she's trying to get at? I don't.
Well, part of it is because in the entire video, she claims that, you know, slavery is worldwide. Slavery is this country, this country, this country. So she bounces back and forth herself between American slavery and worldwide slavery.
But I feel like that's just a very inconsistent thing that she's doing there. And I'm not even mad at the fact that she said abortion is worse than slavery. People, you know, she could be wrong. She's wrong. You know, people could be wrong. I'm not going to be mad at people for being wrong. But the rationale that she's using to justify it doesn't make any sense. Like saying slaves had the opportunity of life. They didn't have the chance of liberty in the pursuit of happiness, but they had the chance at life. Their life wasn't theirs. You couldn't dictate if you got to see the next day. You couldn't dictate if your kids, your family would get shipped off or not. Your life wasn't yours to control. I don't understand the idea of, yeah, well, at least they got to make the most out of their life. No, they didn't. They didn't have a chance to do shit. And I think people think slavery was just, they picked cotton in the hot sun and then they went to sleep. I think that's what people think slavery is, and it's not that. It's way worse. We will never know the full extent of the atrocities of slavery, and to just minimalize it to just I was to what they're doing makes no sense. And dude had the audacity to say that modern day slavery in America exists with student loans, and it's voluntary slavery. You go to work every day just to pay off your student loans. I just don't understand their justifications for their argument. It's not making sense to me.
But that's what I mean by like people are desensitized to slavery. The fact that in this conversation, you can compare student loan debt to American chattel slavery. One voluntary, one involuntary. One that definitely has an ending in sight. Now, it might be unattainable. It might be hard to reach. I'm not, negating how terrible student loan debt is. But we're talking about slavery here. We're talking about, you don't get student loan debt and then you get lynched, beat,
Right,
killed, raped, all these other things because, you signed up to go to college. That's not happening to people. That's dumb. That shit is dumb. Like, I agree.
Like they were saying, like you get the chance as a slave, you get to run away. Like that's just a grand option that you get. You get to run away and everything's scot free. If you get caught, you were either castrated or killed. Like why are we pretending like running away was just some simple and easy choice? It was so easy for them to get to the north. None of the comments didn't make sense. The podcast doesn't make sense, and I don't understand what. You're right. People are desensitized to slavery. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I didn't think that I had so many right-wing people that would have, or even people of that mindset. I'm not even going to classify them as right-wing, but people of that mindset that saw those types of videos from my channel specifically. It surprised me. And I'm assuming we're going to have to double back here as well on this thing because I'm pretty sure this is going to receive some hate as well. So
did they think like, did they specify like what type of abortion, like specifically third trimester, or are they saying this about all abortion?
All abortion.
So even like if you needed if you need an abortion to survive, like it's still worse than slavery.
They never brought that up because they never bring that up. Those types of people, they never bring up ectopic pregnancies, other abortions that are life threatening. They don't talk about, being honest, abortions from people with poverty, abortions from babies that are special needs, are going to come out disabled or with different defects and things of that nature. They never talk about things like that. They just don't. It's not their prerogative.
I just thought maybe I was missing something from their conversation because I only saw the podcast from you and from playback, so I didn't know. But yeah, that shit's fucking stupid. They're just wrong. I don't understand it. But hey, I'm glad you had this conversation. I'm hoping to see some people who have a different opinion from us, so we can see a debate.
I doubt it because they tuck their tails. I'm waiting for, and I appreciate you, Sean. I'll talk to you later. I appreciate you.
Hey.
I'm waiting for honor, integrity, truth, and conscience. Yeah, I'm waiting for him to come. I wanna try to. I don't want to make this the longest thing. I want people to actually get a chance to watch this. All I'm gonna say here is though that I don't think that people understand the aftermaths of the transatlantic slave trade. I don't think that people understand the aftermaths, the long-term effects of slavery, American chattel slavery. There's books out there to read. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. I think it's syndrome or disorder. Let me make sure I got that right. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Roy Leary. Fairly cheap book, but post-traumatic slave syndrome, and we look at all the atrocities that come after slavery, through the disenfranchisements of blacks, the Jim Crow laws, the different policies and procedures that specifically targeted Black Americans throughout the United States history, the crime bills, the crack epidemics, the redlinings, the segregations, I think I said redlining, but just the different things that went on in America, the different oppressions that stemmed via slavery. There's no way that we can say that abortion is worse than slavery, especially when you look at it from a broad lens and you look at the long-term effects of these things. I just don't see how you can say that. I don't see how you can say, hey, it stopped here. When we know that, my ancestors were slaves. Me personally, I'm gonna speak about me personally. My ancestors were slaves, and their descendants were slaves, and then their descendants were sharecroppers. And their descendants lived in the Jim Crow South, lived in the segregated South, stayed in the South and lived in the Red Line South. The ones that migrated up north lived in the Red Line North, lived in the projects in New York and New Jersey, lived through the crack era, lived through the Jim Crow era. I'm not the Jim Crow era, but lived through the crime bill era, lived through all these other oppressions, discriminations against Black people. I just don't understand how somebody can say the instant ending of a life is worse than 400 plus years of the torturing of generations. And since he's not going to come up, I guess I'll end with, hey, I could be wrong.